Hello and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do it. That's my new song. You like it?
I hate it.
Me too. I don't know why I did
I
that.
want us to restart and re-record this opening.
It's too late. This is why you shouldn't have put me in charge of the openings. You know, you never know what you're going to get. Also, this is totally off topic. This is completely off topic, but we're going to talk about it anyways. I am, which this might have caused some of our problems at the beginning, but I'm wearing some noise-canceling headphones, and for some reason my ears feel like they're going to pop, and it's driving me nuts.
Every time I've used noise-canceling headphones, I have the same feeling. It's not comfortable.
Well, it's weird because I don't normally have it. It's just like right now is the only time I have it, and I don't know if it's like, I don't know what's going on, but it's driving me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, first world problems, am I right? My noise-canceling headphones make my ears feel bad. Oh, no.
Well, what's a lukewarm open, Aaron?
Okay, well, lukewarm open. So, last week we talked a little bit about shops. And a little bit about, like, shopkeepers, kind of like a vague what we kind of think of when we're creating shops to shopkeepers. And so this week, I kind of wanted to dive into what we do when we create items. And I know we've talked a little bit about it on the podcast, but I kind of wanted to dive into like our thought process behind making items. Specifically when it comes to like player backstories, because I know that's really important. And then specifically like making sure your items that you create aren't super broken. Or if you want them to be super broken, how to make them super broken.
Okay. So where do you want to start this topic off?
I don't know. I'm thinking what's your like thought process when you sit down to make your own magical item? Or do you even make your own magical items?
I do, and I think, why is it here? Say I'm putting it in a dungeon, I'm like, why is it here?
Okay, so you think a little bit more about like the history of the item? Is that what we're kind of talking about?
Yeah. So like, hey, was this brought in by an adventurer? Is this made by the people who lived here? Why is this here? And then once I discover that, I can then go on, what would they need or what would they find useful and why would they have that item?
Do you ever make like magical items that are exclusively based on need? So like, or like a player wants. So say like a player is like talking after a session. He's like, hey, I want a flamethrower, or like, do you ever specifically do that for a player?
I do, but it has to fit in the world. Like, I'm not just going to make it because a player wants it if it makes no sense for anybody in the world to ever have that.
Right. I mean, obviously, like a spaceship or something. Like
exactly. A laser rifle or things that just don't...
medieval setting.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as it's reasonable, I like to at least make it in the realm of possibility. But sometimes the way before I got good at balancing encounters, I was so against...
I had to laugh.
I was so against any plus to AC because it makes it really hard to hit the players. Like almost, it makes it very, 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 very hard.
It's true. It's true for sure.
So I pretty much made it. There was just no +1 armors or shields or anything like that because people would get ACs of 25. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you're like, I can hit everyone else, but not you. And so either I have
you have to add a +12 to hit, and then everybody with 16 AC is getting hit by everything.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, okay, either I make them so they can hit you, or I make them lose interest in you, but you're normally the tank, and so you get angry that, oh, why aren't they attacking me? If they can't hit you, they're gonna stop hitting you.
Right. Yeah, which is kind of why I wanted to include balance.
Yeah, and so I have I for a while I just kept them completely out. And now I kind of I'm slowly introducing that to the players this campaign, even though last campaign they pretty much didn't get them at all.
Yeah. See, my I don't know, my philosophy to magic items is first and foremost, when I'm creating custom magic items, I obviously like to include some sort of backstory element into the weapon or item that they're receiving. So my favorite magic weapon that I think I've ever created is actually Katori's magic weapon, which is still going to be used because one of the other characters is going to use it now. But essentially what I like to do is I like to think, where can I add this item into somebody's backstory? And obviously not every character is going to have a magic item in their backstory, Katori's obviously did. But so I really like to include that kind of stuff into backstory. And then very similar to you is I like to include a backstory for the item if it's important. So just like the session that we had yesterday, there was a Cloak of Elvenkind and that you guys found, and it just the adventurer who had it, he stole it from his parents and ran away essentially to go adventure and died. But so I like to include like a small little backstory. And then the other thing that when creating magic items is obviously balance. And then something that I've ran into a lot of problems with, like with balance and giving too many magic items to players, is having like an enemy with like a really cool weapon, and then all of a sudden realizing like, oh shoot, he's got a cool sword that like, shoots fire or something, and they're immediately going to think it's some sort of magical weapon. So that can be an issue.
Well, that's why I use a lot of like D&D stat blocks. I love D&D stat blocks because some of them have written in this creature, when it has a weapon, it does an extra 1d12 damage or something like that, because they know that's the case where a player sees a person attacking for 3d12 damage, they're going to be like, oh, that's a 3d12 weapon. I want that. They're like, no, this is a 1d12 weapon. This person just does 2 extra d12s when it attacks with any weapon.
Exactly. So when I did my first campaign, I had a problem with that because it was which this campaign is too, the one that we're doing currently, but it's a very like humanoid centric campaign. So we're not fighting like, in the first campaign, it was not like we're fighting giants and, things like that. It was a lot of humanoids. So a lot of people with weapons and, magic and stuff like that. And so every time I'd create like a melee user, my thought process was like, oh, he just has a cool magic sword. But over time, or cool magic armor. But over time, it was like, oh, shoot, I've now created, 100 magic items that are really powerful that all my players have now because they've killed all these people over time. So that's one thing that I have to be careful with. And then the second part of this conversation was I wanted to talk about balance and what your like ideas are for magic item abilities. How do you get them? What do you do with them? Do you make ones up? Do you just reskin? What do you normally do?
What do you mean magic item abilities?
So like, do you create your own, like, for example, do you create your own magic item abilities, like a breath weapon for a dragon, like you might use on a monster, but instead, have something like that on a weapon? Like, do you create your own, or is it just like you take, oh, this is just a flame tongue, but reskinned to look different?
Traditionally, I create my own.
And so what do you look for when you're creating, like, what makes a magic item interesting for you with its abilities?
Utility. I like things that can be used not just in combat. It's not just like, oh, I just got better at combat because I got this magic item. It's like, oh, I can use, like, say, like, oh, I can use this to, like, grapple a creature and pull it towards me, but I could also use it to get up on a roof, or, like, and so it gives them more maneuverability that makes it so the game, because D&D is really built that every level you're getting better at combat.
Right.
So I like to say, hey, you don't always have to do combat. Here's weapons and things that people used not just in combat, but also to maneuver quicker or do other things.
No, totally. And do you tend to run campaigns that have a lot of magic items? Like, do you like bless your players with magic items, or is it like, you're kind of like, I don't like to do that?
No, I give them lots of magic items.
Now, this is going to be kind of a weird question, but why? Do you just think it's more fun to have magic items?
It's part of the fun of the game. The fun of the game is, oh, we killed this dragon, let's get its horde. Hey, we killed this, yada yada, let's get its whatever.
Right, and I'm very much on the same vein as you. As I give a lot of magic items and a lot of loot. So I also give a lot of gold, a lot of gems and art pieces and things like that. Because I don't know, when I'm a player, I love to get super powerful. You know, like that's the fun of the game, in my opinion. At least for me, it was. And then as a DM, when I give those kind of items, I can then, like, you know, secretly and spicily make my combats harder and, you know, bigger and different, you know, and not just, you're fighting a goblin. Woo! You know?
Yeah.
And so I think magic items play like a really, really important piece in, you know, obviously how powerful a character gets. I mean, most classes get really strong in general, just, you know, being a battle master fighter, you get pretty strong in general, but it's just something nice about having that, like, fancy sword, you know, that, like, your character has. And I remember as a player, when I used to, I mean, I still play sometimes, but I always used to, like, have my character and I'd make, like, a cool weapon for them, and I'm like, man, I love this weapon, but it's like, you know, it's just like a normal club, and you're like, that's lame. Like, I want it to be some sort of cool ancestor weapon or something, you know? So, yeah, I think magic items are a very important part of the game that can be really easy to mismanage. Like you were saying earlier, if you give your characters a 25 AC, it's like, well, now I can't hit you. So, what do you think of when you think of balance? Like, how do you balance a level 5 party magic item versus a level 15 party magic item? Or do you not even, like, have like a registered thought on that?
It's kind of subconscious at this point, but I think if I try to put it into words, a way that I do it is, I mean, see, that's the thing. I think it really depends on what you're giving, because I don't think I don't think the questions have enough detail in them to answer. Like, if I wanted to give them something that would be this super long, interesting backstory weapon or item or thing that's like, oh, this has a lot of detail to it that you're going to have to slowly figure out throughout the campaign, maybe you give them something overpowered. Maybe that's kind of the point, is to give them this overpowered thing so that they're like, what is this? What is going on?
So what do you think, like, when you're thinking of making an overpowered item? Is it like you're looking exclusively at, like, AC bonuses, damage bonuses, that kind of stuff? Are you looking at cool abilities? Like, because I know when it's the same thing with monsters too. When somebody's creating a monster, but it's easier with a monster because you have the CR rating and you have, like, so many examples of, you know, hey, here's a CR 12, you know, so
yeah,
just kind of copy those abilities and make them similar, and you have close. But for magic items, it's really, really kind of, you know, you have that chart. There's like a rarity chart for how much gold something costs, but, you know, it's pretty hard to gauge where a magic item should be landing.
Yeah.
For me, how I do it, and this might be a good way, it might not be, but I often, as a DM, I'm looking at the monsters I'm creating and looking at, like, okay, so let's say we have a 6th level party, and my monsters are having like a plus 10 to hit, okay? If I have somebody with 23 AC, which I do currently, and my monsters have plus 10, that means they have to roll 13 to be able to hit them, right? Which is not, it's, you know, it's below 50% chance to hit, which is, I'm okay with, because, you know, it makes the tank feel like, hey, you know, I'm a skilled warrior and can block and fight these monsters off. Obviously, I don't want everybody to have a 23 AC, but where, you know, that character has a high AC, another character might have an item that makes them do more damage, or, you know, have extra spells or different things like that. So I really try to, like, base my magic items off how strong monsters are they're fighting, which I think is just kind of a little cheat code that I like to use. So, like, looking at plus hits and damages and stuff like that. So
yeah,
because there's not really a gauge besides money to how, you know, where a party should get what item, at least that I'm not aware of. And I don't know the Dungeon Master's Guide like the back of my hand or anything, but
I honestly think it's highly determinate on the Dungeon Master's ideas on whether they think,
for sure,
oh, a flying item is too overpowered, or oh, AC is too overpowered or whatever.
Right. What I mean, and then the other part is like I can always just, tailor the game different to people's magic items, which, especially if you're like distributing them equally to the party, like and everybody kind of stays at that same power level. You don't avoid the power creep where one person just gets, anime protagonist and they can't be defeated.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna be it for the Lukewarm Open.
Cool.
And what's your topic for today, my good sir?
Well, today we're going to talk about a kind of large topic, and we're going to use it to work on the history of our world and how it splintered and grew from the prehistoric stories that we've kind of created so far. So this week we're going to look at the Second Sundering, a time in the Forgotten Realms of change and upheaval. Now, this requires some background before we talk about what it is. We're going to talk about some stuff that we talked about early on in the history of Dungeoneered. We talked about how the planet of Toril that the Forgotten Realms is placed on was originally a fuller, different world called Aber Toril. But things happened and the world was ripped apart, creating Aber and the world that most of the Forgotten Realms is set on, Toril. This transformation caused upheaval among the residents and the gods. The Overgod, which is like the god of the gods, Ao, created a set of rules and boundaries to bring about stability, and he called these the Tablets of Fate. These even stabilized the separation of Aber and Toril. Now,
Wait.
Wait.
Yeah. Tablets of Fate. What did they do again? What did they do exactly?
Their rules.
They stabilized the world? What does that mean?
So it's the way that I would think about it is like the laws of physics. Like these are fundamental laws that now control how the world works. Now this surpasses physics and goes into also how godhood and all that works as well. Kind of making rules and forcing it to be go one way.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Now, some of the gods decided to steal these tablets because they incorrectly believed that these tablets held some of Ao's power. These gods stole them and brought the tablets to the planet Toril. And when Ao found out, he was pissed and demanded their return. Since no one came clean about stealing them, Ao cast all of the gods out of heaven onto Toril, taking their divine power and making them mortal.
Yikes, bro. Talk about a short fuse. Jeez.
Now, this began a very chaotic time in the world where gods were mortal, they were living on the planet, and stuff was whack. Stuff went bad because of that. But some heroes...
Did gods just try to like dominate over humanity?
I mean, some did. They all kind of handled it differently. But the problem is, a mortal god they are fearing for their lives. Because for the first time in their existence, they can die.
Oh, yeah. Are they still powerful? Like, are these gods still powerful?
Not as powerful, but still quite powerful. The way to think about it is, in D&D terms, gods can send avatars to the world. So, like, little versions of themselves that are slightly weaker. They pretty much had the power of their avatar, not how powerful they normally were.
So, like, scary. Very scary.
Yes.
Still.
Some heroes returned these tablets to Ao after finding them on the planet. Ao immediately destroyed the tablets, destroying the rules and laws of the world. This created chaos.
What?
And Aber and Toril started to collide, becoming one once more.
Uh-oh.
This created the era of upheaval. And eventually, Ao decided to create the tablets once more. So this decision that he said, okay, the world's been in chaos for long enough, I'm going to create the tablets again, scared the gods. Because they weren't sure what that meant for their own power.
I mean, kind of rightly so, right? I mean, if I was a god, I'd be kind of like, oh no.
Yeah. You're like, okay, these are rules that are going to come in. Who knows if he's changing them from last time? Who knows if they work the exact same? Like, I don't, what does that mean? What does that mean for me? And so they began to drastically work on evangelism and creating powerful chosen followers. Because gods in the Forgotten Realms get more power based on the size and quality of their following. So they wanted to become as strong as possible before these rules came into existence.
Oh boy.
So what happened is the world is all of a sudden flooded with chosen, with people that are getting special powers from gods and being divinely chosen, and like things that normally happen once in a century, like 5 people in the same town are getting, of all different gods and all different. And so the world is flooded by super powerful people all of a sudden, and most have not been trained to like handle that well. So it's
kind of a cool concept and idea though for a world, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, this created such turmoil and confusion amongst the world because people just weren't sure how to take this. Like, there's all of a sudden all these things. Like, how do you react to that? Some evil people tried to capture them and steal their powers. Others, like, raised great armies of chosen, and, like, others, like, they all had their own thing that they wanted to do, and the world got crazy for a few years. A lot of things happened during this era, and I don't think we have enough time to dive into any of them in great detail.
Oh gosh.
But needless to say, the stars were falling. Gods long thought dead were literally physically walking on the earth, and large wars between chosen were fought all over the world. The world was in chaos. Things only began to calm down when Mystra and her weave were restored, and the tablets were created. The world was forever changed as Ao remade the tablets of fate, and he wrote the names and purposes of all the gods and primordials, partially locking their powers and domains. Now, these forces of many chosen didn't just disappear. The wars continued to rage, eventually ending either in victory or defeat, but some were disbanded in the areas that they had attacked, and people ended up living there. Some governments were in such ruin that all centralization collapsed and instead devolved into a bunch of city-states. Like,
jeez.
The world was forever changed by these many wars that happened. Now, during this time, many presumed dead and missing gods appeared and built followings again. And for some, the Sundering was a massive loss of power, as you would create a bunch of followers, have them do a war, and the majority of them would die. Then Ao would write the tablet, and you'd be locked at your weaker level. And so even the gods were in a bad way after this. The year after this, the gods were completely silent, and only the chosen of these gods on the world could actually do anything in their name.
How long did this period last?
The Sundering was from 1482 DR to 1487 DR, if that means anything to you.
I mean,
so it's 5 years.
It's at least a number.
Yeah, it's 5 years. But for the year after, so 1488 DR, there was just no contact with the gods. Just none. And it wasn't until 1489 when the gods came back, all of a sudden started talking again. They removed all the power from their chosen, or at least majority of their chosen, because they were literally sharing their power with the chosen. That's how they became powerful. So they absorbed their power back from most of the people, because now that the tablets were made, all the whole reason to have chosen was no longer a thing anymore. Now, I feel like I missed I missed a section, because one of the important things that happened during this time was all this energy and chaos that was happening in the world. There was massive amounts of geographical natural disasters, earthquakes, plagues of locusts, droughts, excessive rain. Like, all of these things were happening. And so the shape of the world was changing as well. Now, on a meta level,
Were these just caused because of like the wars, or was this just like the world was just volatile?
It didn't say exactly why. I mean, some of it was pretty evident because, like, there was these floating rocks in the sky called earth motes, and the magic kind of became weak, and so they began falling to the earth. So that makes sense. But, like, the natural disasters, they didn't explain why they happened. They just did. And so, on a meta level, the reason why everything happened, or was happening, the way that it was in the Second Sundering is to... So, the Second Sundering is what kind of introduced the world to 5th edition, lore-wise.
Got it.
They were teasing 5th edition. They were teasing, hey, it was called D&D Next at the time. And they were like, okay, this is all happening. And so this was kind of a saying, hey, you know, everything that happened in 4th edition, like, we're not going to make any of it non-canonical, but we're going to kind of backpedal a bit. Because a lot of things 4th edition did was they tried to, like, make... Like, they made it a lot less gods. They made a lot less... They kind of tore back a lot of things. So they were like, we think we went a little too far on that. So missing and dead gods suddenly reappearing. There was a time called the Spell Plague where a lot of crazy things happened on Toril, which we've already talked about previously. And this Second Sundering kind of took the world from before the Spell Plague and said, now the world looks like that again.
Got it. Yeah, so they kind of just, I mean...
It was a board wipe.
Over, you know?
Yeah, it was a board wipe. Like, let's go back to before the Spell Plague, but also all of the things that happened there are still canonical and still happened. What we're kind of doing a board wipe to make because they wanted to go back to when the Forgotten Realms was loved as a setting, and seemingly it had become not a loved setting during 4th edition.
Right.
But yeah, so it's kind of this crazy time of upheaval and the world being super changed.
And so what we're going to do, we're going to make one of those for our world?
I mean, if you want to, we could go with a drastic kind of change like the Second Sundering, or we can go for a simple change like Pangea to the continents as we know them today.
Okay. How big do we want to go?
I don't know. What are you thinking?
I don't... Honestly, I think we should do a pretty big world-shattering event. So I think what we should do is we should, like, focus on, like, an event or, you know, a small period in time that just completely shattered and changed the dynamic
questions
of the world.
For you. Want the setting in the future to be high magic or high tech or in between? Or low magic, low tech?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I tend to make a lot of high magic, high fantasy worlds. I also tend to make a lot of, you know, normal. I don't know what they would just normal fantasy, not fantasy high fantasy,
land,
but
low tech, low.
Yeah,
fantasy. Yeah. How about it's like a comet or an asteroid that just slams into our planet?
An asteroid that destroys our planet.
Didn't say destroys.
Shatters it.
Yeah, shatters shatters the planet, shatters the kind of continents.
So
it would have also a high, like, some sort of magical power / essence upon it.
Like, are we talking like some sort of god or alien type thing, or what are we talking about here?
Just more like a resource.
Like some sort of special steel that makes weapons better or something?
I was thinking magic, but sure. We could go steel. We can make it a high-tech world.
Well, it could also be interesting if it was, like you were saying, if it was some sort of like magic didn't exist in the world until this happened.
Interesting.
Like until this event happened, which I'm not 100% sold on.
I don't hate that though.
An asteroid, but I think it's a cool idea that magic didn't exist on the world.
Yeah, until this thing landed.
Well,
or whatever it is.
Okay. Oh man. Well, now I have so many different things. What if we?
Oh, hold on. How about
what
this?
if magic?
Yep. Can we go super weird with this world?
Okay, that makes me nervous.
Could we have the literal world shatter? So the planet, whatever internal power source the planet had, that shatters. So the roiling energy that we created, that created the Genasi, that which is in the core of the planet, shattered and literally broke the planet into chunks that are now floating in a spherical shape. And that also released the energy of magic into the world. And so now, to get from one continent, quotation marks, continent, to another, you have to literally travel across this space. And maybe they have skyships for that very purpose.
All right, so let me see if I can.
They call it They call it traveling the expanse. The expanse.
Okay, so let me see if I can summarize what you're thinking here. You're thinking whatever this energy was that like created the Genasi, like the those kind of races, like shattered from something, like blew up.
Yeah, and I don't know I think it would still be unexplained to this day why it did that.
Okay. I like that idea. What would be the ramifications of that though? What and what is it? Is it what is it just like a arcane energy that blew up, or are we just like?
Yeah, I think it's just an arcane energy that blew up, and so it kind of it has granted people power at that point. And maybe it's even like the Tablets of Fate, where it solidified the Pantheon as what it was. Because as we said, if you just believe in something, it becomes a god. So maybe that's what makes that no longer continue.
Okay, I think what I want us to do is let's go to just before the disaster period. Okay? Let's go just like before. What do we see the world look like? It's a Pangea. We have all these different races living as their own societies,
I think they're just starting to kind of reach out and see each other. I think they're just starting to like, oh, there's people
outside
over here.
of their little biomes. So because we already have them kind of at war and stuff like that. Outside of their little biomes, so the desert is now just starting to see the people in the plains, and so we have this kind of new. Not discovery, I guess discovery, like a discovery era where different races and societies are starting to discover more about this Pangea.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're starting to see the different races. What do we think their reaction is? Is it a peaceful? Is it a like reserved? Is it like what are we thinking here? Because I want to kind of set the tone to help us kind of guide what happens, what this disaster does.
So are you saying how do they react to the disaster?
No, how do they react to like a discovery area? So the era, they start to like notice each other, like they're
everybody acts differently in it, I think.
Okay, so like some groups
are
stay
happy with it,
the forest, and
others are happy with it and like, oh, hello, I'm yada yada, and others are like, I'm just gonna stay back here. If you want to talk to them, go for it, but we're pretty isolationist. I think everybody's different.
Okay, so depending on like their race and the biomes they're living in, they start to have like a different reaction towards each other. Then we have the event. So people are just now starting to discover new races and have their reactions to it, and then the event happens. My thought is because our world is so like heavily influenced by a group's belief, how can we have that belief change the world dramatically? How can we have an event based on a person's belief completely change and shatter the world? Because I think I want to play off of that. Like, like, this is an example. This is just a little example that can help us, see what I'm thinking. The elves meet the gnomes of the forest, and the elves believe that the gnomes are magical, right? And so magic is then born because they start believing in these magical things that the gnomes can do. And then the concept of magic is born, and it grows from there. Okay, so that's just like an example. I'm not saying that's what happens, but that's kind of an example I'm thinking. And my first thought was, when you mentioned like this asteroid or comet or something, I thought about, what if like everybody in the world saw this comet and they all believed it was some sort of magical divine source that provided magic for the land, and it did because they believed that. And it turned into its own right, like a magic giving god, so to speak. And you have different societies that worship it, and it passes every year or whatever.
So you don't think it crashed?
Well, my thought is the start of the.
You're cutting out there, my guy.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, you check your connections.
My connections are good.
Okay, try it again. Well, I mean, like say your thing again.
Well, my thought is that if this asteroid no longer appears in the sky, they start believing some sort of horrible calamity is going to befall upon humanity. And that belief causes some sort of horrible calamity.
I love that. I love this. So they see this thing for so long, they're like worried about now that it's gone, and that collective worry makes it crash. Now, I do want to say, yes, I didn't like that first thing that you said.
What first thing?
About magic. They
like
believe magic exists, so it exists. I didn't want that.
Yeah, it was just an example to try and lead up to the comet. But yes, but like they see whatever this is for so long, like the sun rising, and it no longer does, and they turn that event into some sort of horrible calamity because of their belief.
But so are you saying that you don't want the earth to shatter, the world to shatter?
Oh, I want the world to shatter for sure. I just don't know if I want it to be like an asteroid impact or what. But I would love the world to shatter and scatter and break the races, because I want it to be... My idea for the world is we have Pangea, races all living separate, to my idea after is separated continents, races living intermixed.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, I think that's always the idea. I think that's always been the idea. I think the big thing is... okay, so when I meant break apart, I meant the planet break apart. So we're throwing that idea out. That's fine. I just wanted to clarify that.
Like completely like separate in two, like two different planets now? Like the same thing that happened in the Forgotten Realms?
So what I said was the kind of roiling energy that created the planet explodes and shatters the world. So then there's these expanses between literal of you have to pretty much travel through space, but space doesn't work the same way.
Got it.
Because that was my idea previously, and I don't know what happened with it, so that's why I'm checking.
Oh, yeah, I'm just, I don't...
That's fine if it's not. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I think I want to keep it within the realm of, like... I think I wanted to keep it in one single... I don't know how to describe
it. Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah. But I think it would be really cool if we played off the idea of belief causing some sort of horrible disaster. And
I think that's
could be really cool. What I think, what I think would be fun is if there was like an entire church now that's dedicated to like non-belief to prevent stuff from like this happening. That's like they are void of or don't want to.
You're having some real problems
because they don't want another like. Weird. My connections are all good.
As long as you're still recording and you're getting just fine recordings, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, no, everything is fine on my recording.
Okay. So I kind of want it to not be known. I kind of want it to be known by very few people, that is why it happened. I kind of want it to almost only be the gods that know that's why it happened. We had some network issues. I said network issues.
We're still gonna have them, guaranteed.
We're having some network issues, so we're gonna try and synopsize what we've created right now, and make sure that we're both happy with it. So, Aaron, as you understand it, what have we created so far?
So, from what I understand it is we have a Pangea where the races are just starting to discover each other. There is some sort of object like the sun or some sort of comet that passes, and everybody believes that this is like a sign of good, like, I don't know, good, like prosperity or good energy, and it stops appearing, and the people start to believe that a calamity will befall society. And because of that belief, a calamity does fall upon society. And we were playing around with the idea either that causes whatever this object was to fall and smash into the earth and like shatter the continents, or something completely different. That's kind of what I remember, but we were breaking up so bad, so that's kind of what I thought and remember. Same thing with you?
Yes.
Okay.
So when it hits, it releases a wave of energy that spreads magic throughout the world, and this is where magic starts.
Would that create people who don't like magic then? Like, but we also were talking about the idea of people not knowing about this event. Do we want people not to know about this event, or do we want people to know?
Oh no, they 100%. I mean, they know the event, it happened. They know that magic started after it, so it's never going to be forgotten because it was such a major moment in their world creation. But what they don't know is that it was because they had started to believe something bad was happening. Something bad happened?
Do you think that people are aware that belief can create all sorts of things in this world?
No. I don't think it can anymore.
This shattered.
Yes.
It was the final event.
Yes.
I like that. I think that's pretty cool.
This was
that way we don't have people creating gods all the time.
Yes. I think what happens is that I think it hits the roiling energy that the Genasi have. And I think that is what breaks and shatters, and the creation element that was on this world no longer exists as it is shattered and spread across the world.
Okay, so the creation energy that creates the world and creates the races that the Genasi are around is what gives people the ability to create.
Yes, and it is magic.
And then when
it spreads magic throughout the world.
So it essentially created magic, but we lose the ability to create things with belief type deal.
So it can still create things. It's still really powerful, but because it is spread so widely, it is now weaker, spread so thin that it's weaker. So that
I like that a lot.
It can still create things. It can still animate objects. It can still do all these spells that are creation, but it is also not powerful enough to create a god no more.
No, I like that a lot. And I think how many gods do we want when this happens?
372.
Okay. Yeah,
just 372. A measly 372.
Okay, 372 gods. I'm down. I like big pantheons.
No, I think it'd probably be a reasonable amount. Probably like
371. It's probably a little
exactly.
bit better.
Yeah. So there's a reason why we do this podcast together. We think alike.
Yeah. Gosh dang it. That's so stupid. I love it.
No, but there's probably only I don't know, let's say 25.
25 works for me.
But it's still a lot to cover the whole world.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like that. What is their response to this? Because they probably watched this happen, right? Do they, what's the...
I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's relief.
Okay.
I don't think they wanted any more gods. I think they didn't like how many were created.
Or at the very least, they don't want other things to be able to create gods but themselves.
I don't think they can create gods. I don't think even they have that power.
Can somebody ascend to godhood in this world then?
I think it would require a massive amount of power. So to do it, you would require a lot of spellcasters working really hard together to do it, and it would pretty much be casting the spell, which we already know exists. I think it's a 12 level spell called Karsus's Avatar, and so you would have to find a way to cast a spell higher than any level that just one person could cast.
I mean, do we do like Full Metal Alchemist and do like a law of exchange where like you have to, in order to get that much power, you have to be able to like remove that much power from the earth or like remove that much power from something?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
That's the only way you can get above like a 9th level spell. Like maybe because this like creation energy shattered, the magic can only go up to 9th level spells.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Enough to go beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it would require multiple people or some other source of magic.
Right. To get to that level.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I like that a lot. And then this, what do we want it to be? I mean, I guess we need to discuss that. Meteor, comet, sun. I mean, sun's a little bit much. Like, what do we, a moon? What do we want it?
Not a son, but a daughter.
Oh, yeah. No, that's pretty good. Gosh dang it. I hate it.
No, asteroid, just a basic space rock. And I think it just hit perfectly. And I think maybe if we want it to be something like that is important to the main story, it could be thrown by like some sort of elder evil, like a Yog Sothoth, that threw this asteroid at the planet, knowing that it would destroy its elemental energy.
What if... Okay, that gave me an idea, and hear me out here for a second. What if we did, like, the world has 3 moons, okay? And one of the moons collided into the planet, causing this catastrophe. It's like the smallest moon or whatever, okay? And what if the gods did it because they didn't want people to be able to create things anymore? So they purposely sent the moon down to break the creation energy.
That's interesting.
Because I feel like that would be something
that
they would do.
Yeah, that does sound like something they would do.
It would give it purpose. I mean, I do like the idea of, like, big bad dude, like, hooking it like a soccer ball, you know, just like, yeet. But I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that I like the idea of the gods. You know, there's 25 of them, and they're, like, looking around like, boy, we keep, you know, sprouting up like beanstalks.
Mm-hmm.
And the more of us there are, the less power we're going to have. So let's do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they end up causing, like, they know, too, that, like, this moon is a symbol of, like, the world's prosperity and peace or whatever, and abundance. And if they send it cascading down, it will cause, like, mass chaos.
See, do you see them as not liking the people on the planet?
I don't see them as not liking the people. I see them as not liking them being able to create more gods.
Because, see, one thing you said offhandedly, I don't know if you were thinking about it very much when you said it, but you said an interesting thing that also would make it very important for them to want to destroy this. You said that maybe so the amount of energy that this thing has, I think all gods draw from it. So, if more gods are created, there's less god energy to go around. They're getting weaker every god is created.
That was partially the idea, yes.
Yeah, and so I like that idea. For because of that, they were like, yeah, we got to stop this because we're getting weak. Stop it.
Right, and so what I think is, and here's another thing that just hit me. What they do is, because this, like, moon is a symbol of hope and prosperity, they remove it from the sky because the gods can't, at this moment in time, since they're, like, controlled by people's beliefs, and this creation energy, they can't really do anything outside of what the belief is, right? And so what they do is they remove the symbol from the people, and their belief turns into something bad's going to happen, which then permits the gods to cause something bad to happen.
Interesting. So they're kind of held on this chain of what the people think.
Right, which it's no longer the case now. So it was another reason for them to do this. So they kind of like tricked the people into believing something that could allow them to act outside of what their original belief intention was.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting and very unique.
Definitely.
Because they're bound by whatever the original creation belief was and what the belief of these people is now. And so they have the ability to affect prosperity and peace and abundance. And so they remove the symbol out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people start believing there's going to be a calamity, which allows them to cause the calamity.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that.
So then they send the moon down and destroy this creation energy source, and it blows up across the whole world, giving humanity magic, but also kind of sealing the pantheon as the official, reigning pantheon, who now can act outside of whatever the people believe.
Mm-hmm.
To a limit, I think, still. Like, if the god is believed to be like a god of goodness, they're not anymore like a god of, evil, Like, there's still like a limit there, I think, but...
Yes, based on their original creation.
Right, but they still managed to like free themselves a little bit from the binds of humanity.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So then, yeah, I think it's super cool. And then the world breaks up, right? So does this moon like just break the Pangea apart? Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Sorry, what?
Does this event throwing the moon down like break up the Pangea and create continents? Is that kind of what we're going with?
Yes, it does.
And I'm assuming then too, there's going to be like a lot of natural disasters that occurred during that time because you completely shattered the world.
Yeah.
So
or the gods are keeping it from doing anything too bad. So either it becomes total chaos, or it's kind of kept at bay partially by the gods.
What do you like better?
I don't actually have an opinion on that one. I like both. So I think I'm going to leave it up to you.
Too. There's a part of me that likes the idea of they like prevent it from being as bad as possible because they still have a little bit of humanity left, Like they still have...
Yeah, I definitely see it as they care about the people on the planet.
Right, or at least some of them, I'm sure
every single one of them loves the people on the planet.
Oh, of course.
You think they have free will? Come on.
Yeah. Yep. No, so I think...
Called cookie cutter gods. Exact same as each other.
Yeah, yeah. They're all Santa shaped cookies. That is exactly what our gods are like. They're all Santa Claus. And we have the great gift, anyways, called the moon in your face. But I think
oh no, it was a smash move that just went too real.
Yeah. The gods are just fighter characters up in the sky, and they accidentally
threw the moon down. Yeah, you know how you can accidentally do that.
Yeah, they just had too much to drink one day, and oops, on the Moon Tavern.
Ruh-roh, we may have thrown the moon.
Oops. No, but I think I don't know. I like both. I like both ideas. Could we do both somehow? But I don't think...
So are you saying keep it partially contained and partially let it go wild?
Like they're able to contain... Like, maybe the good gods band together and contain part of it, and the evil gods, like, don't. Mm-hmm. So they can't contain the full destruction. And so there is an extreme, destruction, but the good gods are managed to hold off at least some of it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I mean,
That's
then
cool.
we have to get into the Pantheon, too.
So yeah, we're going to have to, definitely.
Episode.
So there's parts of the world that are a lot more scarred from this period, and others that seem almost untouched.
Yeah, I think so. I like that.
I guess next week we'll have to go into what those are and why those ones were saved versus why they let the other parts go. But that is an issue for next week.
Yeah, it's going to take forever. Oh, boy. Yeah, we came up with one event.
Yeah.
One single event.
In a world splitting. Yeah, this is going to take a while.
Oh, it's going to be a hot minute. It's going to be a hot minute.
Thank you all for listening to episode 72 of Dungeoneered. If you listen to us on any podcasting apps that have ratings and reviews, please write a review. Let us know what you think about the show. It really helps show you're engaging with the show in more ways than just one. If you want to write to us, give us suggestions for topics, creations, your own ideas that you like that you created and you want to talk to us about, anything, we'd love to hear it at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. Anything to add, Aaron?
Nope, I don't think so. I think I'm all out of fresh ideas and things to add.
Cool. Well, as I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
Bye.